morning one more time. Kindly respond to my kind greeting. Good morning. Good. So we have volume a little bit louder. Good morning. Okay, that's better. One more time now, this kind of volume. Good morning. Okay, very good. I'm going to pick up off of where Femi stopped. And I'd like to split the room into 4 sections. So we have 1, we have 2 in the middle, 3 on my side, and 4 at the top. I have seen you stand, I have seen you sit, I have seen you clap, but what I really want to hear is your voices. So over this way, kindly repeat as I give you an instruction. Repeat after me. Hello. Yeah. Come on, come on. Let me make it a bit more difficult. Everyone, hello. Very good. Second section, hello. In the middle, a bit louder, you can do it. Hello. Okay, there's 2 or 3 people. And over to this side, hello. There's like a voice in the background there. It's just over there. Let's try it one more time. Over this way. Hello. Nice. In the middle. Hello. Thank you. And over the end. Hello. Okay, now at the top, you're the last one, so give me the best one you can. Everyone. Hello. Yes. One more time. At the top, everyone. 1, 2, 3, go. Hello. Very good. Thank you for being here. My responsibility will be to keep us moving, and we are going to the section where we're looking at the deal room opening. 3 key messages that I need you to keep mind over. Our session is going to be about accelerating investments to transform our food systems for a sustainable future. 3 key things I'd like you to mind and to just write down, take a quick note. 1 is to do with the urgent action we need to be taking. It's important for us to invest in this. And coming out of the wake of COVID and the situation in Ukraine and so many other factors, it's important that we keep investing. Second, when we say investment, it's not to throw money at problems, but to figure out how we can set up systems, infrastructure, and models that advance the food systems. And third is the question of inclusivity investment models. So the opportunity for women and for youth. Today we have a great panel, and they're ready for us. All right? I'd like us to move to inviting. Our panel will be here in just a second. But before we do that, to open, if I may have your attention, ladies and gentlemen. Much better. Thank you. I know some pictures are still taking, but I want us to keep moving. To get us to the deal room opening, first and foremost, I would like to have an honorable member come to the front, and his name is a special one. I'll read his title, then give you his name. We're going to have the Minister of State, President's Office, Planning and Investment for the United Republic of Tanzania, Honorable Professor Kitila Mkumbo, will be giving us opening remarks and to launch the deal room. A round of applause, please. Honorable Professor, I welcome you to the stage.
I don't have to go through all this protocol. I don't think these people are here.
No, just opening up 10 minutes.
Okay, right, right.
Right.
You are excellent.
Sorry, let me get the room quiet.
Yeah, because I don't think it is ready here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite us to honor our honorable speaker with your attention. If you could kindly allow me, if you are standing in the aisle, I am kindly requesting you to take a seat. If you are having a discussion with the person next to you, I'm kindly inviting you to respect and honor the honorable speaker who will be opening with some remarks. Thank you so much. Very good to see you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, thank you. Honorable, please.
Your Excellency, former President of the United Republic of Tanzania, His Excellency Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete, honorable ministers, leaders of various private sector organizations, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I want to begin by thanking the organizers for inviting me to participate in this great forum and for giving the privilege to officiate at the opening session of this platform, which focuses on striking new deals and commitments in the agriculture and agribusiness sectors through facilitating access to finance, mentorship, and market entry solutions to support the economic growth. It is a premier platform that promises to move the African agriculture and food systems agenda beyond food security onto agri-food investment. Let me also highlight a little bit the potential the agriculture sector can play, or that is playing, in Tanzanian economic transformation. As highlighted by the guest of honor this morning, the agricultural products in this country, as in many other African countries, characterize both the imports and the exports. For example, in many African countries, including Tanzania, the edible oils and sugar imports are among the top 5 imports, which in this country are valued at more than 1 billion USD. Similarly, along minerals, agricultural raw materials are among the top exports for Tanzania. Both scenarios evidently suggest that investing in agriculture and agro-processing potentially offers big business in Tanzania and in Africa. And it is on this basis that we invite potential investors and businesses attending this forum to seriously consider Tanzania as their destination for agriculture and agribusiness. Dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, is championing large economic, political, and social reforms guided by the philosophy of 4 R's, which is translated into reconciliation, resilience, reforms, and rebuilding. The economic reforms are being guided by the opening up approach, which basically translates into welcoming outside investors and their technical assistance, as well as stimulating and facilitating domestic investment. Several structural and legal reforms have been and are being undertaken to ensure that the business environment is conducive and facilitates to investors. The recent study by the Deloitte Africa Investment Attractive Index ranks Tanzania among the top 10 attractive locations to invest in Africa. Dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen, food insecurity is real, just like the effects of the climate change. It is projected that almost 6 million people will be chronically undernourished by 2030. Worldwide, food insecurity affects particularly women and people living in rural areas. Moderate or severe food insecurity affected already 33.3% of adults living in rural areas in 2022 compared to only 28.8% in pre-urban areas. The gender gap in food insecurity at the global level, which had widened the wake of the pandemic, narrowed from 3.8 percentage points in 2022 to 2.4% last year. More than 3.1 billion people in the world, or 42% for that matter, were unable to afford a healthy diet in 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, despite these challenges, Africa is well placed to offer the global solution to the challenge of food security. For example, due to its agroecological diversity, abundant natural resources, and a rich agricultural heritage, Tanzania is a good example that offers the potential for diverse food systems entailing crops, livestock, and fisheries. Nevertheless, for this to be realized, significant investment will be needed. As I end, ladies and gentlemen, global challenges require global solutions. Food insecurity is a global challenge that requires global solution. As I said earlier, this global forum offers a platform to interrogate the global challenges and provide innovative solutions to ensure that through smart food systems, food security and agribusiness are realized. The forum has set very ambitious goals that cannot be achieved without global solidarity, shared knowledge, and a collaborative action. Tanzania is ready to play its rightful place in this regard. Africa can and should fill the world. We have the potential. Let this forum realize that potential through partnerships and investments to ensure that in this globe, no one goes hungry, and through agribusiness, the African economies are transformed and people's lives improved. It is possible. Let us play our part. Thank you very much for listening. I declare that this steel room is now officially opened. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much, Honorable Professor. Another round of applause for our Honorable Professor. Indeed, global challenges require global solutions. And right now, we'd like to move to our panel of distinguished gentlemen and ladies. We are going to have a panel discussion. And the panel discussion will be looking at the question, what will it take to double the number of businesses in food systems? At this point, I'd like to invite our panelists, starting with Partner and Investment Director, Pearl Capital Partners, Mr. Wanjohi Ndagu. Please come to the stage. I'd like to invite Deputy Vice President for Sector Operations, Millennium Challenge Corporation, Ms. Katerina Ntep. And as they come, please do help me give them an applause. Yes, thank you. Yes. Senior Vice President of Africa Programs, Haifa International, Ms. Adesua Ifedi. Thank you there. Very good. Group CEO, AFEX, Mr. Ayodeji Balogun. There you are. Very good to see you. SVP Venture 37, Land O'Lakes, USA, Mr. John Ellenberger. Chief Strategy Officer, Equity Group, Mr. Brent Malahai. A big round of applause, please. All right, then. Without any further ado, I would like to, yes, please, kindly. I'll stay up here and I'll pass it to you. Without any further ado, if I could just hear from every one of you, one at a time, starting from Mr. Brent. What is your why? Why is it so important that we focus on doubling the number of businesses in this field and in this sector? Very briefly, if you may.
So maybe to do that, let me leave you with 3 statistics, a plan, and an invitation. So let me start my introduction with 3 statistics: 3%, 8%, and 25%. 3% is the portion of Africa's wealth represented by the GDP. 8% is the food net of any exports that Africa has. And as discussed earlier in the past presentations, 25% is essentially the 2.4 billion population of Africa by 2050. The why is we need to equalize those statistics, the 3, the 25%, and there lies the opportunity for businesses to more than double. Thank you.
Very good. We'll go that. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for the question. I would say my why is that the private sector has the unique ability to help to contribute to the kind of advances that we're talking about throughout this AGRF session, and feel that it's very important that the private sector be included, celebrated, and supported in their role in that effort.
Fantastic, please.
So by the time I'm 60, Africa would have 1 million more mouths to feed. And the question is, how will Africa feed itself? Today, government budgets are less than 5% of the size of the sector. Total credit is about 2% of the size of the sector. So the only solution is by creating and empowering African champions, African businesses that can drive the food transformation.
Very good. I should say I appreciate how succinct you are, strong points, and they are very important. Yes, please.
And I would say that we need to identify our pull factor. The pull factors are the entrepreneurs working across the bottleneck, creating business opportunities and creating jobs at scale. Then I would say there's a 1% challenge. 1% of all investments that went to agriculture as at 2020 came to Africa. But there is an opportunity, because out of that 1%, in 2021, $400 million was mobilized in 1 year. So there is a huge role for AgTech, and the why here is that it's time we identify the pull factor and then begin to speak investment language and be investment ready as a sector.
Very good. Madam Catherine?
Good morning. My why is, representing a development partner, is that we need to bring holistic solutions that integrate infrastructure policies, inclusive growth, with a focus on climate and opportunities for youth and women. Thank you.
Right. And lastly, Mr. Ndagu? If you could kindly, I think, press the button. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning. What probably we need to do is that we need to make sure that agriculture is economically viable, especially for the producer. I do think, in terms of the entire value chain, that is where, Sub-Saharan Africa is weakest at. And the challenge comes from, the farmer asking themselves, why do I need to plant a single seed over and above what I need for domestic consumption?
Very good. Thank you so much for that contribution. But let me stay with Mr. Wanjohi. To navigate the dynamic landscape of fostering growth within the food industry, we have to consider key strategies. From your opinion and experience, what key strategies and initiatives do you believe are necessary to foster that kind of growth?
Yes, thank you. As I mentioned, the agriculture sector operates in a very unpredictable economic environment. So for a producer, the question is, why should I invest in, better, yielding seed varieties? Why do I need to invest in better animal genetics? Because they do have a challenge of, an effective market. Will my produce find a market? Will I get a fair price? And will I get paid? So we do need to make a lot more investment on the demand side, which means how do we improve the infrastructure for the produce to get from the farm to the market? How do we ensure that we have proper trade policies that protect the farmer? We have very many cases of where we have bulk production, but then at the same time, you experience an inflow of huge amount of imports, and it's very discouraging. And not just discouraging for the producer at that point in time, it makes them lose hope. A farmer thinks just like any other investor. I need to have a long-term perspective. I need to invest knowing that I will make a return even 5 years down the line. So we need to make sure that we do all we can to make sure that the producer is getting a fair share of the value in the value chain.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll keep with Ms. Katerina Ntep. With the commitment to fostering, now this conversation has been a lot on inclusivity and gender equality. How would you say is MCC driving women's participation? I know it's a key one, especially through policy support and strategic investments. Would you speak into that?
Thank you. So in its 20-year existence, MCC has invested a total of $20 billion, of which $5 billion have been for agricultural development.
Could we a round of applause for that? Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
In roads, irrigation, post-harvest infrastructure, agribusiness, farmer support. But we very much look for opportunities for inclusive growth. And so let me just give a few examples. We have a current program in Lesotho where we're introducing irrigated horticulture. But in order for women to be able to benefit from it, in working with our partners in the Lesotho government, we encourage them to adopt certain legal changes. And so they were able to pass a new inheritance law and also a law to harmonize traditional law with statutory law to allow women to benefit from owning some of this irrigated land and being able to inherit it, but also pass it on to their heirs. So I think that's an example of some policy changes that help to support women's participation. And it's about gender inclusion, but also inclusion for smallholder farmers. So another example I'll give is in the program that we're going to be doing with Mozambique. We're undertaking a pilot tax policy reform so that smallholder farmers can be brought into the formal market, thereby raising their revenue and increasing investor certainty in the agricultural sector. So thank you.
Very good. If I may stay with you a little, especially on the subject of inclusivity, especially for women, would you speak to MCC's involvement in making sure that women have decision-making ability, that they're included, that they have say over what happens in this sector?
So I talked about some of the policy reforms at the macro level, but also at the project level. For example, when we're introducing an irrigated perimeter, it's important for women to have a voice, for example, in the water users associations or the farmers cooperatives, so that they can participate in, as officers of those associations, so that they have a greater voice in what happens at the local level.
Very good. Thank you so much. A round of applause for Ms. Katerina. And at this point, I'll turn my attention to Mr. Adesua Ifedi. The goal to double the number of businesses, we've already spoken a little bit about that, especially within food systems, but we know it's ambitious. It's a big challenge and it's a global solution. It's ambitious. Can you provide some insights into how Heifer International envisions contributing towards this very ambitious goal?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to add my voice to what the previous speaker said. I think there's been so much work that's gone into the continent's agriculture sector by everybody, and it actually takes all of that diverse lens and collaborative effort for us to see the results that we can leverage on today. Heifer International focuses on ending hunger and poverty. The statistics shows that there are over almost 500 million smallholder farmers across the world, and they represent 80% or more of the farms in the world as a whole. Now compare that to the fact that 50% of the world hungry are smallholder farmers. In Africa, that goes up to 3/4. So if we tackle the issue of agriculture and we tackle it at the smallholder farmer level, we are definitely going to transform not just the hunger challenge, but also the continental challenge of being able to feed itself. But with all of the efforts that we're doing, as we begin to think of investments, without funding, we cannot continue to make this work. And we also know that there are lots of bottlenecks. A number of them have been mentioned. The impact of climate, inaccessibility of insurance to reduce risk so that the sector is investable, and so many other things. But what we are beginning to learn in Heifer, having worked at farm level for so long, is that there are also innovators in the continent who are close to this challenge and are coming up with ideas to address those bottlenecks. And it really takes all of us working in this way to get the work done. But how are we thinking as Heifer to double the amount of businesses? We are considering the pull factor. We believe that there are strategic businesses that are growing within the sector that are addressing bottlenecks for smallholder farmers, but creating jobs for young people and introducing new people into the sector, making the sector more attractive, more profitable, and more investor-ready. These are critical businesses that we want to focus our attention on. And when you look at the numbers, they are also proving that we are working. We're not Silicon Valley yet, but Africa in the last 10 years has attracted a lot of investment to the tech sector. Unfortunately, most of it goes to fintech. Not unfortunately, that's great because we have to settle finance first, right? But less than 20% or 10% is coming to agtech. But the dynamics are changing. 1% came into Africa in 2020. In 2021, almost $500 million was raised in agtech. And by 2022 half year, we're already doing the same numbers we did in the whole year. What does that tell us? That there is obviously evidence that the work in agtech is significant to the transformation. And so for us in Heifer, we are beginning to see what we are doing at the community level with the farmers, addressing the works at the co-op level, but also identifying the strategic role of these trigger businesses that we consider to be a pull factor, to be sure that we are supporting them to become investor ready.
Very good. Thank you so much. Yes, you can go ahead and clap if you appreciate that response. Very good. Just to remind you, we are on our panel, we have leading practitioners and they're representing different institutional voices. And this discussion is about how we're evolving in terms of investor strategies. Next in line, in terms of the questions, I would like to have a response to our audience. Mr. Ayodeji, would you speak to the role of facilitators in providing access to markets? You seem to be experiencing quite a bit of success. Would you speak to us about that?
Thank you very much. So one of my greatest quotes in agriculture is, market is the best fertilizer. Think about it. We think to drive up productivity, the farmer needs fertilizer. But when he has fertilizer and it produces the grain, if you go with the Bible says a multiple of 10 and a multiple of 100, right? So he has his grains and he has his harvest. Where is the cash flow going to come from? And then if you think about that, 60–70% of farmers actually need credit to be able to buy the fertilizer, the seeds, the chemicals they need. But when there is no assurance of the cash flow, we all do business. You produce, you create value, you sell, and you earn cash. And that comes when you have access to markets. So when you give assurance of a farmer that he has access to markets, first you incentivize him to produce more. It encourages him to invest more of his income in the year for the next planting season. Second, you unlock access to credit that also allows him then either increase his farm or increase his productivity, or better still, both. So the impact of market is, taken from, it's that pull factor that then allows additional investments, both by the farmer, but also other people, to create access and allow him to increase that productivity that we so much desire. Now, what we've also seen, in this work that we've done at AFEX over the last 10 years is that, 3 things need to be solved for simultaneously. Unfortunately, most of the time when we design solutions, we focus on one of these 3. So the first is markets. There has to be a market where the farmer will sell. When you also organize and increase production at scale, and you don't solve for markets, you have price gluts, and then the prices tank. And we see that in almost every crop value chain, and the farmers move to another crop, and that cyclicality repeats itself. So first is markets. The second is the infrastructure. Where does it store? If Africa could solve for post-harvest storage, we would have 1 month more of food that will not import. That is about $4 billion less in food import bill for the continent. So we have to solve for storage. If you also don't have storage at the farm gate, at secondary storage level, then every farmer has to take his product to the market, rather than take it 2 streets away, 10 kilometers away, drop it, and then be part of a formal organized market. The third is capital. So how can we solve for financing? The right financing at the right time, at the right tenor for these farmers. Now, most of the time we take each of these solutions, but what we've seen is you have a systemic change. You each actually get to that food systems transformation when you can provide solutions for these 3 simultaneously at every farm door.
Very good.
That's what we try to do at AFEX.
I like how you say that's what we try to do. I think you're doing way more. You're being a bit modest. Mr. Ayodeji is Group CEO, AFEX. I wanted to come back to another question, but I will come back to it, and it's a question of sustainability. Because part of the challenges that we have is that everything goes up, goes down, and the question of sustainability is that we need to be able to create that from the smallholder farmer to everyone in the chain. So I will come back to that. But let me move to Mr. John Ellenberger.
Thank you.
Very good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
In terms of fostering entrepreneurship and driving innovation, I know that's something that you're definitely passionate about when it comes to Land O'Lakes. My question is, what's your approach towards entrepreneurship and innovation?
Thank you. Land O'Lakes Venture 37 is something of a unique player in the development space. We're an agriculture-focused nonprofit that is appended to a $20 billion farmer-owned cooperative in the United States. The aim of our organization, a couple of the key aims of our organization called Venture 37, are to inspire and drive more competitive markets and also, relatedly, more resilient systems in agriculture. I think both of those ideas are linked, and they're also relevant to the concepts of the deal room. In nearly all of our programmatic work, we work to catalyze investments in private sector-led and government-enabled opportunities. Doing so is a unique challenge. It requires that we have at least a minimal understanding of our private sector partners. What are their ambitions? What are their challenges or limitations? What are their capacities for reaching their goals? We think a lot about the concept of return on investment and do it from a number of different perspectives, not just a financial one as it might relate to an organization, but a more holistic evaluation of return on investment. And lastly, and importantly, when we're talking about government-enabled, we have to have a clear understanding of the host government's position on inbound investment and their posture towards supporting innovation and growth.
Very good, thank you. If I may stay with you a little.
Sure.
I'm sure in the audience we have people who would like to hear, if you can, more specifically, what specific projects or programs or initiatives and key partnerships that you are implementing to encourage this growth as an opportunity to establish collaboration.
Happy to. I think one great example of what I'm talking about is an initiative we're doing currently called Dairy Nourishes Africa, or DNA. This initiative was founded by the Global Dairy Platform a number of years back in connection with both my organization, Venture 37, and also Bain & Company. And it was really an initiative that was focused on multiple outcomes: social, nutrition, economic, as well as environmental improvements that can be delivered through transformation of the African dairy sector. DNA is a good example of a working example of an initiative you're probably hearing about this week called Pathways to Dairy Net Zero, and is operating in, DNA is operating in Tanzania right now in a locally led private sector, private-public collaboration, working with the Tanzania Ag Development Bank to invest in new models for improved availability of affordable dairy products from commercially minded medium and larger scale processors. There's another program that's happening concurrently in Tanzania that's looking to incubate and advance a pipeline of micro and smaller dairy supporting businesses, including ones, importantly, that are owned and led by women and youth as they pursue their growth ambitions. The DNA initiatives so far have shown some terrific results in 4 key areas. One is increasing consumer demand for dairy products, which helps to address the nutritional challenge. Growth in processor sales to ensure that the farmer-aligned processors are realizing the benefits. Importantly, rising farmer production and farmer incomes. And lastly, through increased production, a lowered rate of greenhouse gas emission intensity that's significant to the climate.
Thank you so much for the detail. Thank you, we appreciate that. Coming back to Mr. Brent Malahai. As Chief Strategy Officer, Equity Group, we're curious to know how has your strategy evolved in this sector when it comes to achieving the goal of doubling the number of businesses in the food systems, especially when it talks about access to capital and financial services, and that's the field that you're in.
Great, thank you for the question. So at Equity Group, we've essentially launched a plan called the Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan. And the objective of the plan is to essentially commercialize the value chains that are currently fragmented across Africa. So when we think of financial inclusion, we think about connecting smallholder farmers to off-takers, to agro-processors, to markets across the borders through our trade missions, and attract the foreign direct investment, the skills, the technology required across these value chains. So if I can just quickly outline this plan that we have, and the invitation is really for us to partner with Land O'Lakes, with the equipment providers, the input providers, to be part of this opportunity that Africa provides. So underpinning this plan of ours is what we call the Pillar 1. It's the raw materials that Africa is well endowed with. It speaks to the agricultural, the extractive potential of Africa. And it's about improving productivity to the panelists that have mentioned around productivity, improving yields. And here at Equity Group, we are making our asset finance programs more fit for purpose to mechanize smallholder farmers. We partner with service providers that do this as a service. We appreciate smallholder farmers cannot own a tractor given the unproductivity that may incur with 11 months of unutilized tractors. So we look at bringing partners to improve the productivity. Importantly, for us to really transform Africa, to move the 3% closer to 7, 10, 25% over the next couple of decades, value addition is very critical. Real transformation takes place when Africa moves across the value curve. So we're looking to drive that. We're at almost a $13 billion balance sheet, and we can support manufacturers. And we would invite global manufacturers to put productive capacity in a region like East Africa where there is power infrastructure being built. One of the critical aspects as well, and my panelists mentioned access to markets. For us, value chains, it's not just about connecting domestic value chains, it's also about connecting value chains across borders. And earlier it was mentioned around the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Our intention as Equity Group that operates across the region, we're in a position to intentionally connect customers in Tanzania to the DRC, in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, South Sudan.
Yes.
So we do a lot of trade missions. And importantly, and last, we want to connect, and to the theme of acting, we have a number of programs where we've identified a number of ecosystems. It's about being catalytic in capacitating, connecting, and financing these value chains. So maybe that's just a bit of color what Equity Group is doing in agriculture. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Brent. We have just maybe 3 or 4 minutes. I know I promised. Could you take 1 minute on the question of sustainability? Just one. So 2 things are going to happen. If you could take a minute on the question of sustainability, what are your thoughts around that? And then we'll start from the end just to hear from you, especially about opportunities. We already heard there are enough problems to discuss. What are the opportunities? What are the solutions? Sustainability, then parting shots.
So it's a very broad topic. I like to look at it from a food systems dimension, which is why we're here. But we all understand, and I'm sure we all agree that without the farmer being sustainable, everything collapses. So the question that we've spent a lot of time thinking on is that at what point, as a household, does that smallholder farmer reaches sustainability, meaning it can start to grow its business? Now, our finding is that when you can get into an income of about $2,000 a year, they start to save. They start to earn above their cost. They start to earn above their cost of feeding, and then they start to save. When you get them from up to getting into about $4,000, then they start to grow the size of their farm. And that's where you start to see productivity increase. You start to see wealth being created. Now, the problem is when you're always in between or they then get there, and our interventions is about giving them 2 or 3 more bags of fertilizer, anytime there is an incident, it pushes them back into that poverty cycle, and then they have to start all over again. And the push is, how can we get more farmers into this $5,000, $10,000 income brackets that then they start to invest in the farm and grow productivity across the continent?
Very good. Thank you so much. So we shall end our panel discussion the way we began, but from the other side, just a parting shot, especially around opportunities and possibilities.
Yeah, for investors like ourselves and lenders, there is a real opportunity for the financing sector, the companies, the institutions that take time to better understand agribusinesses, how the business cycles evolve. They do require a longer holding period and additional and follow-on investments, but the opportunity is huge. We have a very large food insecurity problem. To address it, it's going to require a lot of financing and potentially a lot of returns. It does take a longer period, but I do see a good opportunity there for financials.
Thank you very much. Ms. Katerina?
Thank you. I would say the opportunity is to put smallholder farmers at the center of policy development, deciding which infrastructure to prioritize, introducing appropriate technology to the smallholder farmers. As was said earlier, in this country, 65 or 70% of farmers are smallholder farmers, and so I think that's really where the opportunity lies, both for wealth creation, job creation, and inclusive growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Katerina. Ms. Adesua?
Yes, and I would also say the same. How do we enable smallholder farmers to be profitable? How do we enable them to be able to improve their income? We have to identify those technology and innovation that address challenges with climate change, that addresses issues with storage, issues with the use of data that gives them ease to access credit and finance. And to do that, we have to support those businesses who are providing those solutions, because they are critical to addressing those problems to smallholder farmers in a sustainable way. So that is key for us to move forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Agribusiness is a $160 billion business on Africa. In the next 25 years, the number is going to double. There's a great opportunity to do so much good. There's also a great opportunity to make a lot of money.
That was nice and short and sweet. Yes, we have two more parting shots.
The opportunity that I see...
I think he gave you like 10 more seconds on your time.
The opportunity that I see is to expand the portfolio of investments in dairy and livestock. I mentioned earlier in my comments about the importance of thinking about ROI from many perspectives. And there are a few sectors within agriculture, I think, that can deliver the kind of impact that dairy and livestock can. It's underrepresented today, and my hope is that through this conference and going forward, it gets the kind of investment that it deserves.
Very good. Wow. First of all, please, a round of applause. This is, I think I got a fantastic panel. Mr. Brent.
The world is resetting, and post the pandemic, the world has appreciated how concentrated global manufacturing supply chains are. Ukraine-Russia war has shown how concentrated food production is. And in a world that is reshaping, resetting, there is an opportunity, there is a window of opportunity for Africa to position itself, to be on the table, to connect itself to this reshaping world. And there lies the tailwind of the abundance of opportunities that Africa provides.
Fantastic. Because you've been so gracious, there's 3 more minutes. And I'm curious, I know that when it comes to planning and agriculture, sometimes it is difficult, especially on our continent. I want to come back to Mr. Brent. There are plans and then there's changes that happen. What do you put in place to make sure that you're able to adapt? And what advice can you give for those of us who especially deal with that challenge of constantly having to re-strategize?
Ultimately, strategy is about connecting the dots, and at Equity Group, we are trying to connect the players a bit more effectively, from the smallholder farmers, the input providers, those that are looking to mechanize, add value. And adapting is about a collaborative approach. I don't think transforming the food and agricultural system, stakeholders on their own, single stakeholders, whether it's on the production side, whether it's on the value addition side, or within production, one can operate and adapt on their own. We talked about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. A relevant Africa is an integrated and coordinated Africa. For Africa to adapt to this evolving supply chain of the world, there has to be a lot more coordination, integration between the countries. So for me, I think adapting is about collaboration, relationships, and long-term thinking in terms of the investment that is required to provide those safeguards. And also importantly, to think more holistically in a solution, improving productivity without making sure there's a market will provide challenges. We think of improving yield and output. What are we going to do with that? It's not a matter of just exporting more. At Equity Group, what we're looking to do is to value add more and sell within the continent, and to the extent that we can and we have the surpluses, export beyond the continent.
Very good. Ms. Adesu, I saw you nodding. I'll give you a minute to add to that. I'm sure you have something to add.
No, I just totally concur.
Yeah.
Being able to be strategic about how we position ourselves in this new world is key. Even the numbers are telling us that since 2020, more investment, curious investment, is coming to the sector. So we have to then position ourselves and think about the markets, think about the critical bottlenecks, think about those things that cause risk for agriculture, and those innovations that can de-risk agriculture. These are very strategic because everything is going to lie on funding. And the funding has to be affordable, the funding has to be customized, and it has to be patient. And to make that happen, most of what the panelists have said is critical, and it has to be a partnership. We have to talk to each other. We have to, work together and see where there's collaboration and alignment in the work that we're all doing in the sector.
Very good. I'm being very generous today because you're being so kind to me. Mr. John Ellenberger, please go ahead and add your contribution towards that.
In all the work that we do, adaptation is so necessary. We are a last mile partner for so many of the different initiatives around agricultural development that maintaining a flexibility which requires understanding both the goal that you're pursuing but also the partners that can help you get there. Whether you're currently working with them or whether you're evaluating them for future collaborations is incredibly important. And then I think to help make those decisions around adaptation, having the kind of fact base that you need to understand the performance of the work you're doing and to do that in as objective a way as you can. And I think throughout our history, as I'm sure with Heifer and other people that kind of do things similar to what we do, that concept is second nature to the type of work that we do on the ground.
Thank you so much. I'll take the very last minute and I'll give it to Mr. Wanjohi at the end. From an investment perspective, would you speak to mechanisms and approaches, especially when it comes to attracting funding? A very important question when it comes to the deal room.
We are on our fifth fund. We've raised 4 funds, fully deployed. And that is a critical question for us. How do we raise additional capital? I'm in the process of fundraising. So one of the mechanisms, obviously, we are looking at first loss, protections. We are looking at guarantees and BDS, or technical assistance facilities. First loss protections and guarantees, which we've worked with both instruments in raising, 2 of our previous funds, have worked fairly well. We are able to attract new investors. For our last fund, we actually recruited NSSF Uganda as one of our investors in one of our funds, which was, a big milestone for us. And those are the instruments we'll continue using. Beyond that is just looking at, what is appropriate structuring for agriculture businesses. The funds we've been managing are 10-year close-ended funds. But we are asking ourselves that question, whether that is appropriate for agriculture enterprises which need a longer holding period. So we will probably be considering a 15-year life fund or an open vehicle, just to mitigate the risks of investing in the agriculture sector.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is often said time can be spent or it can be invested, but I believe on an afternoon like this, with a panel like this, our time has been well invested. Kindly help me give them a warm thank you. And our panelists, you can take your seats. Thank you so much. A bigger round of applause, please. Thank you so much. And as our panel takes their seat, I would like to invite you to reflect. With all that has been said, what's the one key thing that you're taking away? I will be quiet for about a minute, allowing you to reflect. And at the end of that minute, turn to the person next to you and share with them the thing that you have picked up. So I saved the 5 minutes for that. 1 minute for your reflection and 4 minutes to just have a bit of an interaction, because we want to facilitate that and have your voice heard as well. Carry on, please.